Hello, my name is Don Martinez, and I will be going over brainstorming. And now, when I think of the word brainstorming, I don't usually think of a teaching technique, but I usually think of a board of directors or creators in a room around a table, right? And they're going to be passing back and forth ideas. But in a classroom, we can use this as a way of learning what students might already know, or at least what they think about a topic that we are going to go over in the classroom. And in our SIOP, or in our 120 strategies, we have 4 techniques that go with brainstorming. And I'm going to go over the first technique because it was the one that stood out to me. And in this technique, we would write down on the whiteboard or have the students write down on paper, what do you think of when I say the word blank? And remember, this is supposed to be at the beginning of a lesson, so the students don't know or shouldn't know much about what we're going to present today, but it could be something that they already do, and I guess we would learn more about that if they do. But for example, I could write down on the board the word enzymes. And then I could go around and ask, what do you think about? And of course, we give them some time to think, process, and write. And we might get an answer like chemicals. So as the students are saying their responses, we need to write that down on the whiteboard. We might also hear digestion. A lot of students tend to think that a lot of our enzymes are only used with digestion. This could be a misconception that we can clear up later. You might even have a good student that takes very good notes and they give you the exact definition for an enzyme. And this might not help the class as a whole, and even that student might not measure the comprehension of what actual enzymes are. But again, it just gives us a springboard into what we could do. And so another technique that was part of brainstorming was technique number 3, which was to use the brainstorming graphics at the end of the lesson so that we could cover what we had already went over. And I think this is also a useful tool because if students aren't taking good notes, or if they're not fully engaged during the lesson, when you're giving a PowerPoint, you're giving vocabulary and definitions, it can help to reiterate what the point of the lesson was. So again, we're going to go over enzymes. And so what an enzyme is a chemical that isn't used up in a reaction, and it helps speed up that reaction. And so whenever the student said chemicals, we could say, yes, an enzyme is involved in a chemical reaction. And whenever the student said digestion, we could go back to that and say, yes, there are enzymes involved in digestion because they're going to break these big molecules down into smaller molecules that our body can use. But we could clear up a misconception and say that enzymes aren't only used to break things down, but they can also be used to build things up whenever we need them used in a cellular process in our body. And then the last technique, technique 4, this one is also going to involve using it the next day to act in the beginning of the lesson to activate the learning that the student had the previous day. And again, what we're doing is we're taking down these words that or responses that the students thought of according to that topic, and we are just trying to activate that knowledge and really bring it to the front wherever they might have filed it back in the back of their head. And sorry, not the last technique, the previous one, but this is the last technique. This one is called carousel brainstorming, and I thought this was pretty interesting, where we have the students stand up and everybody gets up in a circle. And the first student will write on the whiteboard or on a sheet of paper if you don't have a whiteboard. The first student will write what they think about that topic. And so, for example, they could write enzymes again. And the second student will write what they think about when they hear enzymes. And say they write chemicals. The third student is going to go up there and they're going to think a little bit. And then maybe they write digestion. And another student's like, oh, I didn't know that about enzymes. And so the next person might write a protein. And the other student's going to think about it. And this kind of just keeps going around until all students can participate. And as a teacher, we guide them and we can either affirm what they thought about that topic, or we can clear up a misconception. And I liked this strategy because brainstorming, like I said before, I always thought of it as something where a whole bunch of people put their heads together and they really try to come up with only new ideas, but we're using prior knowledge and what the students might think to clear up misconceptions.